Good morning, I'm James Preston and welcome to the Morning Outlook exclusive to 𝐃𝐤𝐴 TV, live from our studios in Sydney. Today we'll give you an insight into how the markets closed yesterday and take a look at how markets fared across the world. But let's first start with a quick overview of today's top stories that have the potential to impact markets. Australia's agriculture industry is feeling the strain as a result of extended lockdowns. Strawberry farmers have issued an SOS as prices fell below cost of production, forcing them to kill off large swaths of their crops. Queensland Strawberry Growers Association President Adrian Schultz estimated that demand was down as much as 50% as Queensland farmers enter the usual peak of their growing season. The energy sector could be set for a shake-up, with the federal government introducing legislation to Parliament that would pave the way for Australia's first offshore wind farm to proceed. The 2.2 gigawatt Star of the South wind farm is planned for a 496 square kilometre area off the Gippsland coast in Victoria's southeast. It would have the potential to supply up to 20% of the state's energy requirements, or 1.2 million homes. And the video game industry could be sent reeling following yet another crackdown from the Chinese Communist Party. The CCP has rushed through an edict banning children from playing online games for more than 3 hours a week. Chinese authorities say they are concerned about youngsters getting addicted to gaming, though it's believed the decision is actually more closely linked to a broader crackdown on tech giants from the CCP. Chinese tech stocks have already tumbled, and we are likely to see a ripple effect for both large-scale and boutique game developers in Western nations and also in Japan. Let's now set our focus squarely on the markets. While the Australian market bounced back from yesterday morning's low, it still fell for a second consecutive session. The ASX 200 eased by 41 points, or 0.55%, to 7,485.7 on Thursday. Most of the market losses were due to heavy declines from BHP, CSL and Woolworths, as all three traded ex-dividend. BHP was the major weight on the market, with its 6.9% slide accounting for close to 70% of the ASX 200's drop. BHP traded ex-dividend for its $2.73 per share, set to be paid to investors on September 21. While it's been a shaky start to September and the new season for our market, it follows a long monthly winning streak in 78 years and has improved 16 of the past 17 months. The ASX 200 is 2% away from the record highs hit less than 3 weeks ago. Australia's international trade surplus of $12 billion in July was above the market's expectations of $10 billion. And elevated prices for Australia's largest export iron ore has also helped. Exports rose by 5%, while imports rose by 3%. Flight Centre announced plans to launch its corporate travel business in Japan via a joint venture with Tokyo-based company called NSF Engagement Corporation. Japan is the world's 4th largest corporate travel market. Last week, Flight Centre handed down an underlying loss of $507 million for the past year, and the travel agent said it has experienced a recovery in some markets, including the US, Canada and Europe. Flight Centre edged higher by 0.5%. TEK-Ocean Group and Rubicon Water both made their ASX debuts yesterday. TEK-Ocean shares fell by 4%, while Rubicon Water surged by 63%. TEK is a service provider to the energy sector. TEK-Ocean manufactures, installs and maintains irrigation automation software and hardware worldwide. 4.8 billion shares changed hands on Thursday, worth an above average $8.1 billion. 736 stocks rose, 663 fell, and 418 finished unchanged. In US economic data, initial jobless claims fell by 14,000 to 340,000. Challenger job cuts fell by 17% to a 24-year low of 15,723 in August. The trade deficit decreased by US $3.1 billion to US $70.1 billion in July, and factory orders rose by 0.4% in July also. Time now for a short break on the Morning Outlook. On the other side of these messages, we'll take a look at European share markets and more on 𝐃𝐤𝐴 TV. Hi there, James Preston for 𝐃𝐤𝐴 TV. Are you into gaming and virtual reality? Does AI and the endless possibilities it entails capture your interest? Or are you constantly trawling through the web to try and discover the latest updates and innovations in the tech space? Well, let us do the work for you. From the latest product launches to shocking affairs on the World Wide Web, exclusive interviews and information about the top companies like Apple and Google to brand new tech startups vying for your attention. 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐞 TechBeat has the latest in what matters in the world of technology. Join me every single Thursday on the TechBeat, exclusive to 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐴 TV. Good morning, James Preston with you for the morning outlook on 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐴 TV, where we cast an eye on the trading to unfold today and take a look at what occurred overnight. Let's now set our sights on Europe. European share markets closed higher on Thursday. The Pan-European Stoxx 600 index rose by 0.3%, with oil shares up by 1.8%. Shares of Swedish drug maker Sobi soared 25.8% on a takeover offer from Advent International and Singapore's sovereign wealth fund GIC. The German DAX index added 0.1% and the UK FTSE index gained 0.2% in London trade shares, and Rio Tinto lifted 1.4%, but BHP shares fell by 5.6% after trading ex-dividend. US share markets rose on Thursday as US claims for unemployment benefits hit their lowest level since the start of the pandemic. Shares of contracting services firm Quanta Services jumped 12.1% on a US $2.7 billion takeover deal. Shares of Cabot Oil and Gas and Chevron climbed as the crude oil price jumped, and Walgreens shares also lifted 3%. The Dow Jones index rose by 131 points, while the S&P 500 index added 0.3% to a record high. And the Nasdaq index rose by 22 points, or 0.1%, to record a high. US Treasury yields were little changed on Thursday. Bond market traders assessed comments from Atlanta Federal Reserve President Raphael Bostic, who said, "We're going to let the economy continue to run until we see signs of inflation, before potentially lifting interest rates." US 10-year yields fell by 1 point, but US 2-year yields were steady near 0.21%. Major currencies were stronger against the US dollar in Europe and also in US trade. The euro rose from lows near US 1.1837 to session highs near 1.1875 at the US close. The Aussie dollar lifted from lows near US 73.76 cents to highs near 74.07 cents and was near 74 cents at the US close. And the Japanese yen firmed from near 110.08 yen per US dollar to around 109.92 and was near 109.95 at the US close. Global oil prices climbed by 2% on Thursday. Traders bet that the crude market can absorb additional supply from OPEC. US Gulf producers continue to grapple with Hurricane Ida's impact, with nearly 94% of crude production still shut. The Brent crude price rose by $1.44 or 2% to US $73.03 a barrel, and the US NYMEX crude price added $1.40 or 2% to reach US $69.99 a barrel. Base metal prices were mixed on Thursday, with aluminium easing from a decade high. Tin was also down by 0.3%, but lead gained 0.9%. Beijing announced funding for smaller businesses, which boosted sentiment towards copper, which lifted 2.3%. The gold futures price fell by $4.50 an ounce, or 0.2%, to $1,811.5 an ounce. Spot gold was trading near US $1,809 an ounce at the US close. Iron ore shed $3.85 a tonne, or 2.7%, to hit $139.7 a tonne, as the world's number 2 supplier of the commodity, Brazil, exported a record 34.8 million tonnes in August. Well, that's all for our morning outlook report here on 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐴 TV. Have a great day trading and stay tuned for more market updates and economic news live throughout the day. This is James Preston signing off for now.